an indie thinker, personal favorite, who's been in rock music for almost 2 decades. Frank, a few questions that we'd like to ask you this evening come from high school students in southeast Pennsylvania. And the first question that we'd like to ask you is, how did you start out in the music business, and how old were you when you first got started?
Well, the first time I ever got paid for playing music was when I was 15. And I started off as a drummer. And before I actually had a drum set, I used to play, I was rehearsing with this rhythm and blues band. We used to rehearse over at this preacher's house. And since I didn't have any drums at all, I had borrowed 2 pots from the kitchen, and I used to put them between my legs like bongos and play on with the drumsticks. And that's how I started off.
When you first started in the music business, what musicians actually influenced your playing?
When I first started off, I liked rhythm and blues recording artists, Johnny Guitar Watson, Clarence Gatemouth Brown, the Howlin' Wolf. I used to like the rhythm and blues singing groups like the Velours and the Orchids and the Medallions, Don Julian and the Meadowlarks, those kind of people.
How old were you when you really got involved in guitar playing?
I didn't change to guitar until I was 18.
When you started into the guitar, what particular musician, guitarist influenced your style?
My favorite, I had 3 guys that I really enjoyed. I liked Guitar Slim, Johnny Guitar Watson, and Clarence Gatemouth Brown. I thought they were really the best of what was going on.
The LP that you have out, One Size Fits All, is a personal favorite of mine, and I know that Johnny Guitar Watson is on that particular LP.
He just happened to be wandering around we were in the studio, and he was in another cubicle in the studio working on something else. And I asked him if he would, do something on the album. That was one take. He just came in and did it.
San Bernardino is a fantastic piece. I really like. Andy is my very favorite. How would you classify your music today?
Personal.
Personal? So it would not be for everybody.
No, by personal it means that it's my personal expression, and it's for anybody who wants to listen to it.
Okay. Is there a general message that runs through your music? Do you have a general theme or a message that you try and get through in your...
Well, there's several. One of them is that the emperor isn't wearing any clothes, and the other one is that common sense is contagious.
How do you feel that your music has evolved over the years?
It's evolved mainly because of the quality of musicians who are available to perform it, and the quality of those players gets better every year because, I don't know, we change personnel every year. We hold auditions, and every year we seem to get more qualified, competent people. And the harder things they can play, then the harder things I can write.
I noticed that last evening you have a new drummer, Chad Wackerman, and I personally thought that last year's band could not be topped. And when I happened to catch the show and I found out how terrific he was, it just really completely blew my mind. How do you find? Do you have you say you have auditions in L.A.? How many drummers would audition for a spot like that?
For this band, we tried out 40 guys, and Chad got the job.
What do you think of the punk and the new wave type music? Your own personal opinion of that?
The same is true of all types of music. There's good examples and bad examples. I mean, there's some songs in punk and new wave that I enjoy listening to. And there's even a couple of country and western things that I enjoy listening to. But generally, I'm not a consumer for pop music.
Well, what in country and western? What type? Kenny Rogers?
No, I actually think that Dolly Parton has a nice voice. I mean, aside from her chest, she has a very nice voice.
Do you think that the styles, the punk and the new wave, will last? Do you think it'll continue?
Last as long as somebody in the media thinks they can make money on it by perpetuating the myth that it is actually new.
How do you feel about other musicians that have the longevity that you have, such as the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, the Kinks? Do you feel as though their music has changed the way your music has? Or?
Doubt it. I don't listen to their music, but I doubt that it's changed the way mine has.
Do you listen to classical music at all?
In my recreational listening time, that's usually what I listen to.
What advice, if there was one bit of advice that you could give to a musician today that is starting out, particularly in high school, or high school musicians that are considering going into college and pursuing a musical career, what advice would you give them?
Well, here's the secret. There are two things that you have to do. One of them is to not stop, and the other one is to keep going. But when you get there, you'll find out that it's still tough.
What guitars and equipment are you using now on your current tour?
Most of the time I play a Les Paul custom with a lot of gadgets in it. And as far as amplifiers go, I use a Carvin, an acoustic, and a Marshall.
Do you try to appeal to a particular audience? Are you trying to appeal, or are you just, the music that you're playing is your own personal expression? Are you trying to relate to a particular group?
Well, basically what we do is done for the people who already like it. You know, there's a certain type of person who kind of likes what we do, and we do as much as we can to make those people happy.
Have you ever recorded any music other than rock music, such as classical or jazz? Or
Yes.
what, classical music?
Both.
Both. Where do you see today the state of rock music? Where do you feel it's at today, and where is it headed?
Well, it's pretty bleak because no matter what the artist creates, in order for the public to hear it, he's got to go through this peculiar kind of filtration system that the media has set up. First of all, you won't get a record contract unless one of these junior execs who is afraid of his job gives you the contract. And they're only going to give contracts to groups that they think are totally safe. Then after you get the contract, the record company will only invest a certain amount of money in your project if they think it's totally safe. Then they will only release your record if they think it's totally safe. Then it goes to a radio station programmer who will only program your record unless it's totally safe. It will then go to a radio station who will only play it unless they think it's totally safe. And when you're totally safe and contain no content or no ideas that are disturbing to the ideas that the government or the powers that be want to have broadcast to the public at large, when you're saying nothing, then you will get on the radio. And then you can make millions of dollars.
This is why you don't have a top 40 record, or that you've never had a top 40 record.
It's one reason.
What was considered in the days of high school? What was considered cool when you went to high school or in?
Elvis Presley.
Presley. Pat Boone?
No, not so much Pat Boone. He was, except if you were a cheerleader or a varsity kind of a guy, you might really like bopping to a Pat Boone record. But Elvis Presley was really, hey, that was good stuff.
Provided we had our white bucks on. There's a saying that kids today are into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. What's your reaction to that?
I think there's more to life than that.
Why do you think?
But I'm 40 years old, so what do I know?
Why do you think that people connect drug use with rock music? Do you think it's a valid connection?
No, I don't, because drug use is a problem that faces America today in all age brackets. And there's all different kinds of drugs. They're used by all different kinds of Americans. And the amount of usage is staggering. I think it's a major problem. It's at least as big a problem as alcoholism or religious fanaticism. All the things that tend to affect the way people think in America. I don't enjoy being part of a society that has that kind of a disease, because when a person is chemically altered, he is saying to the world at large, I am no longer responsible for my activities because I'm stoned. So, hey, excuse me, I was just wasted. And next thing you know, he drives into you in his car, and you're injured, he's injured, but I was stoned, so what? Or it's a doctor who's going to perform brain surgery on you, I didn't get enough sleep, so he had to take something to pep him up, but he's a doctor, so it's okay. Gives you a lobotomy by accident. No problem, he was stoned. Or it's your lawyer who is supposed to represent you in a legal matter, and he's charging you $200 an hour, and your life is on the line, and he didn't get enough sleep, and he needs a little thing up his nose, and he can afford it, so no problem, and he's a lawyer, he'll get away with it, and you're the victim, And that's what happens. Same thing with alcoholics,
Do you think that the drug use in the rock world is as bad as people think, or do you think it's totally exaggerated?
It's as bad as drug use in the legal profession, in government, in medicine. It's as bad as drug use among housewives, maybe even among police officers. You know, I think that the problem of drug use and all types of consciousness-altering substances is bad, all the way across the entire spectrum of society in the United States, but only the kids get blamed for it. They're the obvious target of all the propaganda to the rock and roll generation is wasted. Sure, they're wasted. Their parents are wasted. Their brothers and sisters are wasted. Their mothers are wasted. Nobody wants to deal with reality because reality has gotten to be too disgusting. We're on our way into the dark ages again. That's what we're looking at right now. It's not just 1984. We're looking at something that is going to make the first dark ages seem like a company picnic, because there's just so many more utensils that can be used to keep the population in the dark and stupid and under control. And it's not good.
You've traveled all around the world, and it appears, the statement that you just made appears to me that possibly you might be anti-American, or you know, what do you have to say about that?
No, I'm not anti-American. In fact, I'm proud to be an American. I'm an all-American boy. I travel all around the world, and I always remind people that I'm an American. I think America is the best place in the world. Unfortunately, that's not saying too much, because other places in the world are pretty messed up too. I just wish that things were better here, because if America was in good shape, then the influence that America used to exert on other places in the world would be more of a positive influence. I travel around a lot. People will now laugh at Americans, you know. All they ever see about what we do over here on their television stations is very negative. And of course, a lot of what you see on television in the United States in the news is negative too. People have given up caring about the responsibility they have to be citizens or part of the community. And I know this sounds really old-fashioned, but remember, I'm 40 years old. You know, I'm not a teenager, and I'm looking at this in a very realistic way. Everybody out there who's watching this tape is a young person. You know, maybe you're seeing this in a high school or something. You want to have a good time. Yeah, great. But after you're done having a good time, you better think just a minute. Your parents are not taking care of business. Your neighbors are not taking care of business. And if you don't take care of your own business, when you get big and you got to take the rap for all this stuff, you're really going to be in deep. You better start thinking about this now. You want to go out and have a good time? I'm not your dad. Go have a good time. But when you're done having a good time, come back to reality and remember that the future of the world is you, not them. And so if you're unprepared for it, you're looking at a real bad time in the future. Nobody's going to take care of you. You're going to take care of yourself. And if you take care of yourself and think about the community that you live in, the world will be a better place. Not just where you live, but all over the world. And it's got to start with kids.
Have you ever had a bad experience on drugs? Is that why you're totally against drugs?
No. I'll give you my entire history of drug use, okay? In the early 60s, everybody used to say, here, smoke this, okay? I have smoked in my lifetime, in 40 years, a grand total of maybe 10 marijuana cigarettes. Never once did I get high from any of these substances. I don't know what was in them. The only thing that happened was I got sleepy and I got a sore throat. Now, I can't see risking a legal offense, you know, the chance to go to jail, or having a sore throat because somebody gives you something and says, this is really groovy. I never found it to be amusing. I've never taken LSD, cocaine, any of that kind of stuff. You know, I get plenty strange just playing music and drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes without using something stronger than that.
What do you do, and I'm sure you've run into this problem, what do you do at a party if everyone else is on drugs? I mean,
I leave.
You leave?
I leave. I don't like to be around people who are using drugs because they're not in control of themselves. They do things that I don't find amusing. They can't carry on a conversation. Everything always comes out, oh, wow, you know. And I don't like that. It's boring, you know. If I go to a party, I go there for one reason, and it's merely physical. And once that desire is taken care of, I don't need to sit around with people who are going, oh, wow.
Do you have a lot of friends that do drugs at all?
I don't have any friends at all. I have a wife and 4 kids. They're my friends. That's my family. Everybody else that I know is either an employee or an associate of some sort. I'm not a sociable kind of a guy because most of the people who do social things are doing them with chemicals that I don't like to be around. I don't want to be next to somebody who suddenly goes, you know, because he's got some chemical in his body that makes him turn into a werewolf. Who needs that, you know? Let them do it to each other.
Do any or has any of your band members throughout the years used drugs, and what kind of a rapport? Well, not a rapport, but how do you control your band members? Do you have a tight rein on them as far as drug use?
When a person takes the job in the band, they understand that what they do in their private lives is their business. But if they're on the road, they are representing me, they're representing my music, and they're representing the need for the audience to get entertainment on time. That means you don't go to jail while you're on the road, okay? And so I ask them not to use drugs. If they want to do it when they get home, fine. But when they're on the road, please don't do it. Because it's, aside from the chemical damage, there's the legal risk that somebody's going to take their freedom away, and I'm going to be sitting there going, where's the drummer? You know, I don't want any of that. And I have fired people for using drugs.
Do you think that peer pressure, now we're talking about high school students, do you think that peer pressure is a factor for students in high school using drugs? Do you think that has anything to do with it?
But it's not just the peer pressure. The media glorifies the use of drugs. And radio glorifies it, especially by, the whoopee drug, sex, rock and roll syndrome. First of all, rock and roll is a nice form of music. It's real good entertainment music, and it makes you feel good, okay? Drugs, I don't like them. If that's your idea of a good time, do it, but don't kill anybody when you're doped up, you know? And sex, nobody knows anything about sex anymore in the United States. They're taking all the good information about sex off the air, and if you don't get into sex, you're always going to have to rely on drugs to have a good time. You'll have more fun with sex than you will with drugs, and it's safer.
Do you drink beer or alcohol at all?
I can drink cognac. I have a sore throat right now. I'm drinking cognac. I don't like the taste of beer. I like wine. I don't get drunk. I don't like to bump into furniture or vomit on people.
Do you think that booze is worse than drugs, or vice versa? Do you think there's a...
I think that any kind of excess, when it impinges on somebody else's lifestyle, is bad.
Would you think then that somebody would get, let's say an individual that gets real drunk and he gets sick and he vomits on the floor, and that type person puts down someone else that smokes pot? I mean, do you think that, any one particular person has a right to put down another because he drinks and the other one's...
I mean, a person could be taking magic mushrooms and vomit on somebody else, It's not nice to vomit on other people who are on the floor. I mean, there's, where's the get off in that?
Why do you think that police officers tend to look the other way when kids get drunk? And they come down hard when that same individual will smoke a joint, smoke marijuana. Why do you think that?
Well, I have an answer to that nobody's going to enjoy, but I think that the liquor lobby in the United States is very powerful. And they would like to condone the use of liquor because that's a nice, legal, very large business. And the sale of alcoholic preparations means a lot of money to a lot of people. So I think that down through the chain of command, police officers and other civic officials are less likely to punish a kid for being drunk than they are for drugs. And the reason why people get arrested for marijuana usage or whatever is because I believe the government is involved in the drug traffic. I think that the government wants drugs in the marketplace because it keeps people stupid. And occasionally they arrest just the guy on the street. They don't get the big guys. Because the big guys are already working for the government. They're all shaking hands. The pyramid goes up like this, and at the top, whoop, it's the same guy. The one who sells the dope and the guy who says, go arrest this one. It's the same thing. That's the way I look at it. I got no statistics to prove it, but that's my feeling, okay?
Do you think if you were a high official and you had your way, do you think that the penalties for marijuana should be more severe?
No, let me tell you what I think about solving all the problems in the United States today. All right? The easiest thing to do, since everybody is already using drugs, is to legalize the use of drugs. That takes some of the romance out of it, and you might even see a decrease in drug usage because one of the things that's happening is you get that little exhilarating rush when you're doing something not exactly legal. It becomes a temptation. Legalize it and tax it. Get tax dollars from the people who want to be in that condition and have more legitimate controls over the drugs. That way, people who want to use drugs won't wind up taking strychnine instead of something else they're being sold, and put some better controls on the products themselves. Because we're at the stage now where it's total hypocrisy to pretend that people are not going to get wasted. No matter what I say and no matter what you do, people want to be ripped. And there are people who are convinced that they can handle it and they will go out and do it, and there's nothing you can say or do. So why not tax it and make it legitimate? Because I don't think you should be sticking people in jail for that. Okay?
Right.
The other thing that you ought to do to derive some tax income so you won't have to tear up the school lunches and take away other social programs is tax the churches, tax all the businesses owned by the churches, and you will have a big rush of new money into the treasury that can be used for social programs and a lot of things that need to be done. And the basic idea of putting this country back together again is the idea of let's cut the crap and forget about all the hypocritical things that people pretend to be and pretend to do, acting saintly, acting like this, acting like that. It's not that way. It's a real, rough, dirty world, even in America. No matter what the moral majority tells you, this holy whatever it is, it's wrong. It shouldn't be there. Let's face some facts. The other thing is, the mafia is already so big. Why not just install a third house in Washington, D.C., stick the mafia in there and let them consult with the Congress and the rest of those guys? They're all crooks anyway. They should get together. They should save the phone calls to Palm Beach, you know what I mean? And they should just do their business the way they're going to do it and stop pretending. Because in degrees, all of America has been criminalized over the ages. Laws get passed that are totally against norms in a community. Things that you thought were fun to do suddenly are illegal. Now you're a criminal because you're doing what you want, and that has a bad psychological effect. It creates a climate of bad mental health, and the mental health in the United States right now is really down the tubes. Let's get rid of all that stuff and be honest with ourselves about who we are and what we're doing. That's the only fair way to do it.
Don't you feel, Frank, a little miffed because of your, I don't know, maybe you don't feel this way, because of your anti-drug messages through some of your songs? I heard for the first time last evening, Cocaine Decisions. Yeah. And don't you feel miffed that you have this stigma attached to you from the younger crowd that comes out to your concerts, that you are into drugs, and obviously you're not? Or don't you feel that you have that?
Well, yeah, it's kind of an affliction, but that's not from the kids, that's from the media, It's another way that the media keeps me from getting my point of view across. The more abstract and weird they make me look, the less access that I have to a normal channel of communication with the people who might benefit from what I have to say, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. I feel very strongly about my point of view. I think there are other people that might agree with it if they heard it, and I'll do whatever I can to say my point of view wherever it can be said. If this tape goes into a bunch of schools, I'm delighted. I'm delighted to take the time to do it because I think that I have something worthwhile to say, and I'll do whatever I have to do to get it. But you don't see me on normal television very often. You don't hear the records on the radio very often. If you read about me in the papers, they write about me like I'm a maniac. I'm not. I'm 40 years old and I'm normal. I got 4 kids, a house and a mortgage, and all that crap, I'm an American citizen. I'm happy to be that way. Pay taxes and everything.
Do you think that you lose fans because of your anti-drug stance?
No.
You don't think?
No. But there are people who are still surprised to find out that I don't get wasted. We've got to remind you that what we do is so complicated. If you're wasted, you can't do it.
I notice you smoke cigarettes. Do you feel that that's a bad habit, or do you enjoy smoking a cigarette? Or
I like cigarettes because I like the way they taste. I like coffee because I like the way it tastes. That may not be your idea of a good time, but that's what I do, and I've been doing it since I was this tall.
I like this question. You don't like drugs, but when you give a concert, most of the people in the audience are probably stoned. Doesn't that bother you? How do you feel?
I don't enjoy the smell of marijuana smoke or hashish smoke, and when you come on stage and you get a big blast of that, it's not something that, I physically enjoy. But I'm not there to lecture people. I'm not there to punish them. I'm not there to be their dad or anything else. I'm Mr. Entertainment. They bought a ticket to a show, and I'm there to provide them with musical entertainment. And so long as they don't injure me or themselves during the concert, fine.
How did you get into film making?
I borrowed my father's 8mm camera in 1956 and bought a roll of Dynachrome color film from a supermarket where everything turns out too red.
Well, where did you learn all of the technical things that obviously you need to know to make the quality film that you've made?
I went to the library and I did things myself practically, made a bunch of mistakes, did it the hard way.
Do you like animation or live film better?
I like any kind of visual medium. I like TV. I like animation. I just like a lot of that stuff. It's fun to work in.
Your ideas from your films obviously have come from life on the road, but where do you get your ideas for all the songs that you've composed?
Well, if you watch the news, you can get a lot of ideas. And when I'm at home, I watch 3 to 4 hours of news every day, because in Los Angeles, there's so many different channels that you can switch between. If you get the right hours, you can see tons of news. And I'm an avid news watcher.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that you've been in music for going on 17 years, are you going to try and move away from music and continue with your film career, or would you like to continue doing both?
Both, but basically I'm a composer. That's what I do. When I make a film, I treat it as if it was musical material, and I compose it. I compose film, I compose music.
Last evening at the concert, you said that you were in that afternoon practicing on stage. Do you practice every day?
Every day.
Even when you're on the road, you're practicing?
Every day. We rehearse from 5 to 7. That's 2 hours of rehearsal every day that we play. And before a tour, we rehearse for 2 months, 6 to 10 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week.
The cost of just rehearsal must be staggering. What does it encompass? Renting a hall? Well, you renting a hall and equipment and so forth? And
well, first of all, everybody in the band and crew is on salary. Second of all, I have to rent the hall. Many of the items of equipment are either rented or purchased for the rehearsal. And before I even buy the airplane tickets to get us where we're going, I have a minimum of $250,000 invested in rehearsal cost to make a band sound like that before I go on the road. Now, there's not too many groups that think enough of their audience to invest their own money into putting the thing together like that. And I'm the guy that pays for it. I buy the equipment, I pay all the salaries. If somebody buys a ticket to a show this year, part of that ticket money goes to preparing the band for the next year's tour. And that's the way it works. I'm a small businessman. The capital that comes in from what we sell, which is entertainment, goes back into the company, doesn't go up my nose, doesn't go into a yacht, that goes into, this year I bought a recording truck and a brand new PA system, and all that is used to make better quality entertainment for the people who come to our concerts. And I think I give good service to the customers that we have.
I'll have to agree with that. You mentioned something, you had an article in a publication just last month. I'd like you to explain that a little bit, dealing with a large sum of money that you just went right down the toilet, or right down the tube. Would you explain that money that you lost?
Well, every once in a while, people from various parts of the world call me up and say, we would love to perform your orchestral compositions, and there's quite a few of those things. In fact, I've got some of the scores sitting right over there. Call up and say, our orchestra wants to play this, and will you please come and talk with our people about doing this? And the article that I wrote was about what happened when I tried to, first of all, do an orchestral concert in Vienna. And that cost me, about $100,000, something like that, just in preparing it, and never came off. I mean, for phone calls, airplane tickets, back and forth, negotiations, hotel bills, all that stuff, it just adds up. Next thing you know, no concert, and I'm the one that spent the money. Because invariably, I'm the guy who has to finance the initial seed money for all these projects. Whether they make a profit or not, somebody's got to start the ball rolling, and it's me. Okay, I'm not funded by any grants. I don't have any money from the sky. It comes from record sales, ticket money, whatever. It goes into my bank account and right out again in terms of salaries and all the other machinery. So basically what that article was about is the bad experiences that I've had so far trying to get my orchestra music played. And I've just had to make a vow to myself right now that I will not spend any more of my money to do that because I can't afford it. Anybody who wants to hear that orchestra music, they pay this time, not me. I can't anymore.
What do you do when you're not writing songs or making films at your leisure?
Smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, or I sleep.
Do you like to watch other people's films?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Are there any particular topics that you'd like to get involved into in making another film?
I'm interested in things that are either absurd or abstract or...
Science fiction?
I like science fiction. I'm a monster movie fanatic.
Of the many things that you have...
Let me tell you a scene I thought of the other day. I'll never get a chance to do this, so I'll tell you about it. It takes place in kind of like a bar. It's kind of, red, fuzzy wallpaper like all those mafia guys have, And then you're sitting in there, and there's some people at this other table, and you're trying to have a nice cup of coffee and a cigarette, and these people are having this boring conversation. They're talking about dumb stuff. And suddenly you say to yourself, I wish that both of those people would grow beaks like Donald Duck, and their faces grow out and they turn into Donald Duck, and while they're talking with these duck mouths, their voices don't change, but they got these duck mouths going like that. And you think to yourself, I wish these beaks would melt on their clothes. And so like yellow crayons, these beaks just melt on their clothes, and all that's left is this horrible little hole with melted duck stuff down the front. And these people are still talking about boring stuff. They don't even know this has happened to them. And the camera zooms in with this horrible little pink little hole and these dumb words coming out. And eventually these two people get up and they leave. And then you have your cup of coffee and a cigarette. That's the kind of movie I want to make.
Nice. Of the many things that you have done, what do you think that you'll be remembered for?
A poster of me sitting on the toilet. Because right now, that's the only thing that most people know me for. More people know me from that poster than have ever heard any of the records. That poster got better distribution than any record or any television show or any film or whatever. That's in more homes than any of the albums.
And what would you like Frank Zappa to be remembered for?
That's not important. It's really not important that you be remembered. The thing that's important is if you can do something constructive now, then do it. So I think constructive, and I'm doing it.
Thanks, Frank, very much. Thank you.